Ladies and gentlemen, get the book Dr. Joshua Bowen wrote, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament. It is extremely full of knowledge and information for anyone, as well as join the Patreon. There's hundreds of videos that have been not released to the internet. You can ask questions and I will record them with these scholars in high definition. I do that all the time. You can also personal message me and you help the community grow. Thanks a lot. Dr. Joshua Bowen, Silitz 23, my Patreon. Says,
it's a good name for a band, I think.
We are Silitz 23.
Right. Is it true one reason Jonah and Esther are considered romances and not historical by scholars is because the references to Nineveh, Neo-Assyria, and Persia found in these books are not supported by their extant archaeological records or writings?
See if I understand the question correctly. Do we categorize them not as historical?
Yeah, because that's sources? What it says. It says by scholars, right? So is it true one reason Jonah and Esther are considered romances and not historical by scholars is because the references to Nineveh, Neo-Assyria, and Persia found in these books are not supported by their extant archaeological records or writings?
I mean, no, I don't think that's why they're categorized in that genre. I think it's for literary reasons that they're categorized that way. Certainly Jonah. Mm-hmm. I think really the question of, and again, this isn't my area of expertise in biblical studies, so forgive me for my limited responses. But you know where archaeological evidence or historical validity come in are in more fundamentalist conversations where you're also arguing things like, can people survive in the belly of a big fish for 3 days? And if you're arguing that, like, I feel like we've already lost. Jonah is clearly a piece of literature, and a pretty cool piece of literature, actually. And you can see this in, for example, in the first chapter, there's this very interesting verb to hurl or to throw something, and it's used, I'm digging deep here, I think it's used like something like 7 times maybe in the entirety of the Hebrew Bible. And like 3 or 4 of those occurrences are in the first chapter of Jonah. It's this interesting form of a Hebrew verb and an interesting root. And you can see it where, and again, I'm just trying to pull this from memory here. Let's see, God casts or hurls the storm at the boat. The fishermen hurl the cargo overboard. There are other words for throw, right? But they hurl them off.
Is it like poetic, kind of, sort of?
It would be, yeah. I mean, I think that's fine. That's a fine way to say that. It's giving you an indication of the genre of the text. Like Jonah is hurled overboard. I can't remember. It's used. I thought it was used one more time in the book, but anyway, I'm happy that I remembered those 3. But yeah, I mean, obviously, chapter 2 is incredibly poetic. Incredibly poetic, is that a thing? It's quite poetic. And I mean, just the fact that you start off chapter 1 with the command to go to Nineveh, and he runs, and all the bad stuff happens, and then I think it's chapter 3 that starts off with essentially the same command, now go to Nineveh. And it's like, I mean, you can see the literary structure of the text. So that's why these things are categorized this way. It's not that, oh, well, now we want to read this as history, but damn, it doesn't seem like it lines up. And this is actually an important, now that we're talking about it, I think this is actually a really important question, because I think that many fundamentalists or even Christian apologists, certain types of Christian apologists, will come to texts like this and say, well, the reason that you say that it's not history is because there's this supernatural stuff that's in here And so it can't be history, so you call it something else. And that's not the case. I don't want anybody to think that the presence of conversations with deities or deities in action, particularly if they're anthropomorphized, doesn't factor into how we figure out the genre of a text. It definitely does. There's no question about it. It's what myths are, right? But there's so much more to it than that. It's not that there's this anti-supernatural bias in scholarship and liberal scholarship today, or critical scholarship, that says, oh, there's something supernatural there. Well, it must be, all bogus, so we got to call it something else. Miss me with that shit. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, I'm with you. I think that answered the question, though. It's not about the historical reliability. The genre seems, if you could use the term, poetic in a sense. And even when you get to, what was the other one? Not Ruth, but
Esther.
Esther, yeah, Mordecai and Esther. That's very. It's a very heightened story.
There's more to it, right? And and of course Esther is like, I've never really done any study in Esther, so I wouldn't even feel comfortable commenting much on it. I mean, I know the story, but I couldn't comment on it like I just commented on Jonah, which is very limited, what I've said about Jonah, but I couldn't say that much, because I haven't read through Esther.
Thank you.